Hello, today I'll be doing a tutorial on how to use sockets in Python. So first we'll be creating the server file, you can call this whatever you like, and the client file. So we're going to create our server first, so we'll have to import sockets, and then we need to define our host. So this will be the host or the IP of our current machine. You can do 127.0.01, but you can also just leave it blank, and also localhost. But just leave it blank, it's much easier. And then we need to define our port. I think that everything under 1000, port 1000 is, you can't actually use because other software may be using it. So I'm just going to use port 5000. Port 5000. Then we need to define our socket. So socket.socket. Then we need to define some more. inet, and then socket.sockstream. Then we need to bind this together. So bind, and then create a tuple, and port like that. But if you don't actually want to use that, you can just do it in here like this. Like this. But I'm going to use the variables because it's easier to change in the future then. Okay, then we need to listen for connections. You can leave it blank or you can add a value. I'm just going to leave it blank because it doesn't really matter that much. And then we need to create a while true loop to wait for connections. Okay, so this will wait for a connection, this function here, and it will allow you to communicate. So once we have a connection, we will want to either send or receive. So I'm just going to send a hello world, but make sure you encode this into UTF-8 like this, or you can do that, it's shorter. And then we will want to close the connection. So this will close the connection to the client. So now we can code our client. So we'll have to import socket. Sorry, I misspelled that over there. And then equals socket.socket, socket.af inet, and then socket.sockstream. And then we'll want to connect. So I'm going to define host, which is just the, if it was a remote machine, you would do its IP like, for example, like that, or 19, I don't know, an IP address. But since it's my local machine, I'm just going to do nothing. Can also do local host or 127. I'm just going to leave it blank because it still will work. And we'll need to use the same port as the server, so it can connect through the port. And then we will connect through it like this. So we need the host and then the port. The same with the server, you can just do 5,000 and like that. But I'm just going to use the variables because it's easier to change later. Okay, so now we want to receive what the server sends, which is hello world. So we need to do receive, s.receive. So I'll store this in a variable, so server, let's do data. Then we need to do a buffer size, so how much this will allow in. For example, if I sent hello world and I had a buffer of 1, it will probably only allow h in. So I'm going to do a buffer of 1024. So then we'll want to close our connection to the server, because with the server you only want to close the connection, but with the client you'll close the socket, if that makes sense. So we can run this now. Make sure you run the server first, and then you run the client, and it should run. Okay, so now we've got it to connect and send some data. We may want to see the data. So make sure you decode the data with UTF-8, because if you don't decode it, it will still be bytes and it won't be able to print it. Well, it will be able to print it, but it won't be correct for other uses. So that is how you will print it. But if we want to send a large amount of data, like for example a whole executable file or a PDF over the internet, we won't be able to actually send that because it only allows 1024 bytes. So what we can do to allow that is, while true, we can actually do data b equals, which this means bytes, so this is a byte string. We'll do just temp, so this is just a temporary, and data equals plus equals temp, and then if length of temp is smaller than 124, which is the buffer size, then we have to break. So then we can then print out data. So if we run the server, we'll receive it. Because if we send a big string, or like a file, a whole big file, it won't be able to send it only in this small buffer. But if we keep on looping through until we've got the whole entire thing, and then break when it's smaller than the buffer, which means it's the last part of the data, it will quit the loop, and then you can decode the string. So that'll be the end of the tutorial. I may do a level 2 or I don't know, next version. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped you, and feel free to subscribe and like the video and hit the notifications bell, and hopefully I see you in the next video.